Hicks, and this is Com 231, Persuasive Speech. Almost every person that you and I know is a potential customer to a drug dealer. A drug dealer does not care what that person's aspirations are, what their hopes or dreams are, or even their potential. All a drug dealer cares about is the money they can squeeze out of each person they enslave on illegal drugs. The reality, which is not being faced by politicians, is that until we take the profits out of drug dealing, we will never stop illegal drugs. But this will never happen as long as we continue our current drug policy, the war on drugs. Prohibition of addictive substance has never worked. Remember Prohibition, when authorities cracked down on alcohol from 1920 to 1933? Bootlegging, gangsters, speakeasies, the territorial wars, shootings, and human casualties were the outcome. Prohibition didn't work then, and it doesn't work today. For example, if we outlaw tobacco and alcohol as we do illegal drugs, criminals will move in and their cartels will make fortunes selling these products illegally. For nearly 4 decades, we have poured over $1 trillion into the war on drugs and have had 37 million arrests for non-violent drug offenses. Yet drug trafficking continues to increase. The Obama administration even recently declared that Mexican drug cartels are no longer just a criminal issue. Now the White House considers these organizations and gangs a serious threat to national security. Drug addiction should not be a crime. It is a health issue. Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, puts it this way. Every year we choose to continue this war, it will cost U.S. taxpayers another $69 billion. Despite all the lives we have destroyed and all the money so ill spent, today's illicit drugs are cheaper, more potent, and far easier to get than they were 35 years ago at the beginning of the war on drugs. Meanwhile, people continue dying in our streets while drug lords and terrorists continue to grow richer than ever before. We would suggest that this scenario must be the very definition of failed public policy. Here's a common scenario. A person becomes addicted and immediately the drug dealer begins squeezing the victim for more money. When the victim runs out of money, they resort to crime. Many female victims resort to prostitution. Meanwhile, the drug dealer buys weapons and goes to war against the competition. The drug dealers buy off law enforcement, or at least they will try to. Most corruption in law enforcement stems from the drug trade. The cycle continues. More drugs, more crime. America's insatiable appetite for illegal drugs is funding drug cartels in Mexico, which are threatening to turn that country into a failed state. Mexican drug wars are spilling over into the United States. Heroin drug traffickers pay the Taliban in Afghanistan, whose religious terrorists vow to kill our troops. Drug cartels worldwide have more military resources than many third-world countries do. South American countries are constantly under the threat of destabilization from drug lords who are as powerful as their governments. In the United States, we have seen overkill in the rise of paramilitary police raids, which threaten our civil liberties under the guise of war on drugs. We cannot afford to lose our rights under the Fourth Amendment, which guard us against the unreasonable searches and seizures, further damaging our democracy. The only way we can break this cycle is to face reality and legalize drugs. This would involve sensibly regulating and controlling drugs and establishing a network of treatment centers. More importantly, it would take the profits out of the drug trafficking. We tax tobacco products and alcohol, and they are addictive substances. We don't have people committing nearly as much crime to get these substances as we do from those who are addicted to legal drugs. If there are no profits, illegal drug traffickers have no incentive to continue hooking our children, and treatment is far less expensive than prison. We have many people addicted to alcohol and tobacco, but since it is taxed, controlled, and regulated, we don't find people robbing and stealing to support their addictions as we do from those addicted to illegal drugs. We no longer jail alcoholics unless they are a threat to themselves or others. We can get a handle on the drug problem, but we must change our attitude towards enforcement, legalization, and treatment. Building more prisons to house nonviolent drug offenders has become one of our fastest growing industries, but the cost of housing a prisoner in one of our prisons is now $20,000 to $30,000 a year. It is cheaper to enroll in one of America's prestigious universities than to keep a prisoner in jail for 1 year. Politicians need to face the reality that what we are doing in the war on drugs is not working. Legalization of the drug problem may or may not be the answer. It is time to admit that we have been doing for over 30 years has not worked. Legalization and treatment programs need to be given a chance. The public and the taxpayers continue to suffer from the policies of the war on drugs, while the drug cartels, gangs, and dealers thrive. Politicians must face this reality and change their tactics of ending drug abuse.